I've got 3 here set for you that I'd like to share.
Okay,
and because they all relate to upcoming events and stuff in November, because that's what I've been sharing from my new book release, Every Event of the Year, Volume 2, July through December. Da da da. No. Da da da. Yeah. It's material that I can share related to the times. This first one I was going to share with you, I wrote on the 4th Saturday of November, which happens to be International Aura Day. So I wrote this piece called Unwind and Revere Yourself. Unwind and Revere Yourself. When I was so stressed out from work, from the weaker sex, doctors gave me drugs because the doctors thought there was something physically wrong with me. So I got away for a few weeks. I went to visit my parents while they were still alive, and I sat in the sun and tried to unwind. And I realized that my stresses were what I ran from. So I decided then and there to stop taking medications, and I mentally got rid of those things that hurt me. And it worked. Sometimes you can get away. Sometimes life seems too tough and you don't know what to do. And at times like this, when your aura seems too weak, sometimes you need to take a moment, walk into a Buddhist temple, and not to revere a god, but to take a moment, remove your shoes, and take a moment so that you can revere yourself again. There's your one for aura stuff. There's your aura one.
Speaking of auras, I like your pink glow.
I know, every time I get lights on, I'm like, why am I looking so, I even tried to wear something green to make it not work, but I don't know, it's the lights I choose or something.
She doesn't look pink. She doesn't look pink in real life.
John is saying that I don't look pink in real life, so just so that you know. I don't know what this is. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. All right, the second one I was going to read, I wrote on November 24th, which happens to be the same day in 1869 that Charles Darwin's Origin of Species was released. So this is written for that, and this is called Evolving with Mutant Genes. When, with a bunch of men riding their motorcycles north of Chicago, I asked one man if I could ride on the back of his Honda Goldwing. The Dutchman, Van, said, "Okay, but I usually don't let Dutch women ride along if they're not blonde with blue eyes." And I got so angry, nearly yelling, "Look, my Dutch roots went back to my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather born in 1767, and all of my Dutch family I've ever known all had brown hair and brown eyes. So don't you dare tell me that Dutch people have to have that recessive trait."
Yeah.
And of course I rode along on the back of his bike, but it made me think about the traits that we genetically carry from one generation to the next, and how it defines how we live, who we like, and what we carry, how we carry our genetic genes from one generation to the next. Because as far as I know, genetically, we humans all started with brown hair and brown eyes. And I wonder if this is why I fall for blue eyes so much. Because, as I said, genetically we all started with brown hair and brown eyes. So why did it all get so messed up with that blue-eyed thing in the first place anyway? Well, scientists just recently discovered that the melanin in our brown eyes may have varied over the years, but only about 6,000 to 10,000 years ago was there a mutant gene, a mutant that was responsible for producing melanin in the human eye. Yes, only a few thousand years ago did some mutant gene come along to see if this was something that would work better for the human race. Because sometimes that's the way genetics works. With some weird mutant gene happens once to see if it works well for the entire species. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, which may account for why not all humans are now blue-eyed. It may work for some areas of the world, but not for all. So this mutant blue-eyed gene didn't catch on worldwide. Which might be why I'm so attracted to that mutant gene, something not so common. But don't worry, these strong genes will survive over generations. I've learned this too. We all know that that we all grow and we all have this, and we all become stronger and better than we were before. That's how this whole species works, forever changing, forever evolving. That's exactly what we do.
Yes. It has something to do with the limits of sunlight in Europe.
And someplace with lighter, lighter
along with hair color and skin color.
Exactly.
And yet, the largest amount of genetic variation is in Africa.
Really?
Really, it's just not as apparent.
Hey, I just realized that Tom has a picture of us from a past. I'm like, that's a picture of me in the background. That's sorry, that just made me laugh.
Did you know that the Neanderthals were probably red-headed, and maybe some of them were blonde before we even got to Europe?
Wow.
Because for the same reason, because they spent so much time in the northern latitudes.
In the northern areas. All right, so
I only know. Oh, never mind.
Oops. Well, and I'm just looking at the picture I have in the picture of Tom, and I'm not coloring my hair red anymore, so I just have dark hair. Apparently, my skin is red though in this Zoom meeting. I apologize for that.
It's very nice.
Well,
good.
I did have one more for you, and it was written on and for Thanksgiving, and that's what I thought it would be appropriate to close with. This one is called "Yes for Our Future Too." During this autumn, I have been following the news of the Voyager 2 satellites, one traveling to see the solar system's moons of the gas giants, but now that that deed was done, it was actually continuing to travel out into interstellar space. A true Voyager indeed. This satellite has just moved now and traveled through its 89,000-degree Fahrenheit wall of plasma that surrounds the edges of our solar system. Although it's a low-density heliopause, it's still like a wall of fire, something that we were only seeing for the first time in our history, which is while we wait for first reports back from our Voyager to tell us what it's actually for and what we're in for, which I suppose is not entirely unlike Christopher Columbus traveling for Spain while discovering this new world to Europeans. So historically, we look back fondly on this meeting of new peoples to share with others and give thanks for our survival. I'm sure that's probably not even close to how it was back then, but we stupid Americans have convoluted this gathering as a chance to get together and be thankful for everything we have after harvest is complete. And in our monetary world, we then have to make it a gluttonous festival before the gluttonous season, preceding a day some historians choose to be the day of the birth of their savior. As a rule, I shy away from this holiday, Thanksgiving. I don't know why. I think it's just another reason to relish in eating a burnt dead bird and wallow in one of the 7 deadly sins. But hey, isn't that what we Americans do? Forced to live through this day, I remember our pioneering spirit that brought us here, but I'm also forced to remember some of my own hellish past and the things that I've had to go through that has brought me to my one true love, which forces me to be thankful. And what brought me this love for what we have, and yes, for our future too. I believe there's so much more I've still got to do. And for that, I thank you.
Okay, very
Here's your
nice.
thing for, also, because everybody has all sorts of different feelings about holidays, so why don't you try to incorporate all those strange things into it?
Definitely.
So,
And Jeffrey, in answer to your question, the Neanderthal genome has also been mapped thoroughly.
Wow.
And you were researching to see how many people actually carry that gene in it. I remember you having that.
Yeah.
Do you have a little
Europeans
Neanderthal?
carry as much as 2%, 2.5% of Neanderthal genes. Sub-Saharan
Yeah, some
Africans,
people
none at all.
And sometimes
And then
in my
there's
mood.
another group. Yes, there's another group in Asia that was discovered a few years ago called the Denisovans. Somewhere in Siberia, in the St. Denis Cave. That's why they're called Denisovans. And only like finger joints have been found, but there was enough DNA that it is now known how widespread their descendants were, and a lot of East Asians have Denisovan DNA, and it's been mapped as well. So
Well, I don't know if I've got any in me, but either way, thank you for letting me read it. Thank you.
Well, if you have fossils from only tens of thousands of years ago, there's still DNA. If you go hundreds of thousands of years,
Might be harder.
you can do it. Yeah, it's not as possible. Anyway, I think we're coming down to the end. Janet, do you want to do one more, and then I'll call in Tom to
You
to
want
sum
me
it all up?
Well, then I'll have to find another piece for you here.
Were you waiting very long?
All right. Give someone. All right. All right. What time is it? How late is it? It's 12:21. All right. I'm gonna do this long one. I can't believe I'm gonna do. And because you mentioned Tom.
Janet.
Yes, sir. Oh,
You're
sorry.
muted.
I'm muted. Sorry. Yes, I can.
Oh, yes.
Sorry about
There
that.
she goes.
There you go. I can. Sorry about that. I can do one, and it's a weird one because that's what.
Oh, weird. Let's have weird.
That's what's having me weird. She says. So we'll see how this one
That's
goes.
something new.
And I was doing this, something new, how odd, right? And I do this for Tom with the glasses because I got John's glasses, but I have to put them down here because it's harder to see. But this one, what day is this actually for? This one is called, this is a poem that is called Ethical Thing to Do. And it was written on the 29th of November for the 1781 date of the Zong massacre, where a British slave ship, their crew, they murdered 133 Africans by dumping them into the sea to claim insurance. I heard about this and I thought this was so. Anyway, this is a piece about this and it's for that day and it's called Ethical Thing to Do. Today I was asked if I knew the date when ethics courses became mandatory in the business college degree. I had no idea, and then I said it had to be recent. They nodded in agreement, and then I thought it probably coincided with the civil rights movement, and so I guess maybe in the 1950s or 60s. They answered, wrong millennium, which confused me greatly, because the Enron scandal of businesses knowingly lying to their investors to give them their company an inflated worth, that is why it was only 2004 when Susan Phillips led task forces to push schools to increase education in ethics into business. People losing money, that's what caused this push, not, say, racial or gender reasons, ethically. I then thought of the day when a crew of British slave ship Zong murdered 133 Africans by dumping them into the sea to claim insurance. It sounds horrific, I know, but know that back then people would fill their ships with more slaves than the boat could handle to increase profits with every trip across the ocean. But by the 29th of November in 1781, some slaves were already sick and dying when the Zong got caught in, get this, the doldrums. Now, seriously, this area in the ocean is known to have no wind at all. So often if a ship got stuck in the doldrums, they would be stuck and run out of food or water and die. Well, the Zong got caught there when, with dying slaves and having to keep enough water for the rest of the crew, they thought it made sense if they unloaded their excess cargo so that their crewmates would live. Besides, large ship like this paid insurance for their cargo like slaves, so they could get their money for their losses. Once a Zong arrived in Jamaica, they filled their claim for their loss, and they did not have enough water to save all. The insurance underwriter protested, saying that the ship still had 420 gallons aboard upon arrival. Abolitionists claim that with the first time use of the word massacre, but the British Solicitor General said slaves are goods and property, and it was madness to actually accuse these honorable men of murder, because throwing property overboard, quote, is the same as if wood had been thrown overboard. Those were his words, and those are the thoughts of the time. During this trip, 10 slaves threw themselves overboard as an act of protest. If they knew that they were going to die, it makes me think of the people I remember seeing jump from the World Trade Center towers after the terrorists attacked in 2001. Did they jump because it was the lesser of two evils? Or did they do it because it was the ethical thing to do? For we forget that there's no disconnect when it comes to ethics, not only in business, but also in our personal lives. It's all on this continuum, because our ethical choices tie everything together. Some people wonder why we need to teach ethics in a business curriculum. But then again, others wonder why it wasn't taught before, after realizing how in business ethics can be thrown out the window when people forget how desperately ethics is needed and as desperately needs to be woven everywhere in our lives. I gave you a heavy one for the last one.
Heavy.
Thank you, Birdman.
Not weird,
Thank
but
you.
heavy.
Well, but that's the thing about this book. When you're looking things for different events, you find the strangest things from one day to the next. As I had said at one point, I'm like, well, here I've got a piece about Lent, and 2 pages over, it's Atheist Awareness Day. I mean, there are just so many different jumps in it. So, but
true.
thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you.